We all know how to use a vocoder, right? The Kraftwerk robot sound? No. The Daft Punk robot sound? No. The Genuine Pony robot sound? No. It can do more than just the robot sound. It's 2025. Let's dive into 3 of my favorite ways to enhance your music, not just your vocals, using the vocoder. The last one I use in practically all my sessions, but no one really talks about it. Let's dive into it. First, let's look at the vocoder alone. If you know about this device, then you can go ahead and use the timestamps below to jump to the juicy stuff. Okay, so we've got the vocoder on this lovely piano sample here. What I'm gonna do is turn it on and set it to pitch tracking. We're not really going to use pitch tracking today, but it's a great example to show you how this interacts with the waveforms. I like to think of depth as activity. If you switch it to the right, it's going to be less active, but it's going to kind of peak with the transients of your waveform. If you pull it all the way to the left, it's going to be very active, picking up any frequency from your waveform. I like to think formant as pitch, so you can kind of dial in the frequency that stands out to you best. Over to the left, we're going to have a darker sound. Attack you probably know, it's going to ease in if we have a longer attack. It's going to feel more staccato if we have a short attack. Release is how long do you want those notes to last. In the middle here, we have the filter bank, which I kind of use as an EQ. You can see that there's a lot of bass down here. If we wanted to roll that off, we just use the pencil tool. Now we're left with all the treble. I'm going to start you off with a kind of 2-for-1 point here. One of my favorite ways to use the vocoder is to modulate a bass and give it more of an analog sound. Here's my bass line, and we're just using a saw wave. If we turn the vocoder on, I'm going to set the bands to 40 so it can read pretty much the entire sound spectrum. I've got the depth just right of center for this example and the dry wet at 100%. It's way more aggressive. We're kind of rounding out the edges, and in this example, emphasizing the bass as well. The reason this is a 2-for-1 point is I kind of like to combine this technique with multiband dynamics. I grab an audio effect rack and the multiband dynamics device. I'm going to duplicate that 2 more times, and then on the top here, I'm just going to rename it high, mid, and low. And then I'm going to set each device to solo the high, the mid, and then the low here. On the mid, I'm going to throw that vocoder. This should be the only frequency that has that vocoder in it. The low doesn't, the high doesn't. But now what we can do is dial in the frequency we want to pull out using our formants. If we just listen to that mid, you can kind of pick out different frequencies that we like the characteristic of. So I can choose that, unsolo it, and combine it with my highs and lows. You can also modulate characteristics of your chords using random notes and the vocoder. Check this out. So first up, we have a chord progression. This is just a preset from Ableton, Daydream Pluck. And I just want to make this a little bit more exciting. Underneath, I have an operator, and it's just playing a single note in the piano roll. I've tied this to an arpeggiator set to random and used the random device as well, so the note is obviously changing pitch at random. This is falling massively out of the scale, but if I grab the vocoder, turn it on, and set this to external, I can actually sidechain it from the basic pluck keys that I have here. You can see here in the filter bank, I'm actually grabbing different characteristics of those singular notes. Again, depth is your activity. And formant is kind of your pitch. But I also like to use the range to act as a filter. You can modulate this at the start of your track. If we start to pull the bandwidth down, we can get a more glassy sound as well. If we added something like a phaser after it, then we can combine it with our original sound to get something truly unique. This video was of course sponsored by DistroKid. They've got a ton of tools to enhance your music even further. Lately I've been using a lot of DistroKid's Mixier to get my music sounding a bit punchier, get it to that final mastering stage. Try it out for yourself. There's discounts in the description below. Finally, the thing I use most often is the vocoder for drums. I don't see folks talking about this anywhere really, and it's such a wonderful trick. For years, I've been using the vocoder to dial in my sounds or get my samples to sound more in keeping, add aggression to my drums, or have them pop through the mix. Let me show you how. So I have this hi-hat here, and the sound's okay, but I want them to sound a little bit dustier and a little bit more in keeping with my other drum one-shots. My vocoder is going to be set to noise, and this time use the filter bank like an EQ. So I'm getting rid of all of the lows here, bringing them to the bottom of the screen, and just kind of pulling out this kind of breathy, kind of darker sound of the hi-hats. As I said, depth, more active, less active. So I'm having it just below center and just up in the pitch with the formant here a little bit. And then I start to dial in the dry wet. I'm gonna have it just above 50%, so I get a little bit of the original hi-hat sound. What's great about this is it feels a little bit dustier than the very kind of short staccato hat here. But if I want some slightly like buzzy open hi-hats, I can just automate the release. With some other drums here, I can also make sure I pull transients out of the mix. Oftentimes we'll use noise or distortion saturation to make a kick drum sound aggressive. If we just want a small tick sound to pull it through the mix a little bit, we can add the vocoder, roll off all the lows, and then make sure that we pitch a nice quick blast of noise on our kick drum. We can then start to increase that through the mix until it's just about heard, pulling it out of the mix. I like it on about 15%. The same thing can go for our snare. I've got this sample here, and I just want there to be a little bit more buzz, a little bit more of a vintage sound. So vocoder, set to noise as we had before, and I'm rolling off the lows, dialing in the depth a little bit, up in the pitch, but I'm increasing the release just a touch, just above 50% with the dry wet. Before, after. So we can put those things together. So there we have it, guys. It's a great way to enhance your music without having to use the cheesy robot effect. Let me know what you thought was your best tip in this video and what you'd like to see in future. Thanks as always for swinging by, and I'll see you next time.